Hey guys, Nicole here from Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today I'm going to be telling you all about the Northern Blue Tongue Skink. So let's get started. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be telling you about the blue tongue skink, specifically the northern. When it comes to blue tongues, if you're looking for a most of the time very laid back reptile, you're going to be looking for a northern. And this can be, in my opinion, a very good starter lizard. Bearded dragons and stuff can also, but all these different animals, especially when we're starting to talk about lizards, they all have very specific needs. If you're going to go with an Ackie monitor, you're going to get something like a bearded dragon or something like this, a northern blue tongue skink. Make sure you do a lot of research, but they can be very good pets. I went over to see Jeff at my friend Caveman Critters. He's got a lot of reptiles that I don't have, so I'll be putting a whole bunch of pictures and clips in here for you guys to see some of the species that he does have and he works with. We'll be putting his link in the description box below, so if you guys haven't, please check him out. It was super nice of him to let me come over and take a whole bunch of footage for this and a bunch of other videos. I do have a good amount of species, but it's always nice to see other people, the way they do it, and also his room's full of obscure reptiles and caging racks, so that's a bonus. One of the best things about northern blue tongue skinks is they really have their own personality. Kind of like bearded dragons, for anyone who has any experience with them. They all have their own little quirks and they can have really good personalities. They do have a bunch of different locales, but I'm not going to get into that. For this, I'm just going to be giving you guys a good care guide. Now, these are a terrestrial species. They're more or less going to be like a bearded dragon. They kind of can climb, but they're not very good at it. These guys can and will fall, so you don't really want to give them too much upward space. For terrestrial reptiles, kind of like a ball python, you're going to want something with more floor space and not so much upward space. So you could do something like a 3x2x1 for these guys, but you might want to do bigger. That is a minimum. A 4x2x1 would be perfect for them. You can do a 3x2x1, but you're going to want to give them more floor space. They are a little bit more active, so a 4x2x1 is what I would call the minimum size requirements for them for an enclosure. Now these are species you're going to want to keep alone except for breeding. You can't keep them in groups or in pairs. You're going to want to keep just one in one enclosure, again, except for breeding. When they do breed, they can get incredibly feisty. They bite each other and they can hurt each other, and you don't want them being territorial or aggressive towards each other throughout the year. So make sure if you're going to keep, let's say, two, you keep them in two completely different enclosures. They do get pretty large. They, again, are pretty comparable to, say, a bearded dragon. They get about 18 to 24 inches long. Now, that's including their tail, but these guys have a lot thicker of a tail than a bearded dragon, and their body structure is a lot different. They're more looking like a salamander or newt. They've got short, stubby little legs. They're a lot smoother than a bearded dragon. These guys also can live 15 to 20 years. So if you're going to get this species, make sure you're ready to have it for a very long time. Now, there's kind of controversial information when it comes to their UVB. Some people swear by you not needing it, and then other people say you really should have it. So it's a very inexpensive thing to have. It's, say, $60 to put in a UVB fixture. I would highly recommend adding one just for the heck of it, because it can't hurt them by having it. So if possible, get a UVB fixture. When you do UVB, you don't ever want to do a bulb. You always want to do a tube fixture. Tube fixtures give out a lot more UVB. So when it comes to these guys, or really any reptile that requires UVB, you want to cover at least 50% of the floor space, so or more. So if you're going to do a 4x2x1, you want no smaller than a 2-foot long UVB. If you have a 3-foot long enclosure, try to go for like an 18-inch UVB fixture. These guys need it actually kind of on the cooler side. Their cool side is going to be between 75 and 82 degrees. And their warm or hot spot can range anywhere from 90 to 100 degrees. So quite a bit cooler than, for example, Ackie monitors, and pretty close to bearded dragons. They are a little bit cooler than dragons. When it comes to bedding for these guys, you can do a bunch of different things. You can do aspen, you can do things like Repti-Chip. I've heard of people even using recycled paper or cypress mulch. But when it comes to these type of things, you want to make sure they're not damp, they're not wet, they need it on the drier side. Absolutely do not use cedar bedding. You really should not use cedar bedding for any animal, especially when it comes to reptiles or rodents. Don't do any cedar bedding. You also do not want to use walnut shell bedding. It's actually toxic to them. The only thing with these guys, when it comes to loose particle bedding, you have to make sure they're not eating it. So when you're going to do their food, stuff like that, make sure it's not just on the bedding, it's on a dish, or you take them out to feed them. If you are going to do a taller enclosure, make sure you're not putting things that they can climb on and then fall off of, because they will. Things like large branches, or even if you're going to put a basking shelf they could get up to, they can fall off that. So they can get hurt. So just make sure you're not putting anything that they can climb on or that they can fall off of. Their diet is a very important thing, to have a lot of variety in it. So they eat a lot of proteins, a lot of vegetables, and a lot of fruit. Like bearded dragons, again, they need to have their food calcium dusted. So make sure that you have that. Their food doesn't give them enough of that. There's a couple different brands, but this one works really well. It's not only calcium, but it also has vitamins and supplements in it. So you just sprinkle this on their food and it makes it really easy. As adults, they're going to need to eat every 2 to 3 days. So they don't actually have to eat every single day, but you want to do every 2 to 3 days. Like I said in the beginning of the video, they can all have their own very spunky personalities, and they all can be completely different. When it comes to handling these guys, you want to do it often to make sure they're still friendly. When you're also holding them, make sure you have a really good grip if you're holding them up in the air, because you don't want them to fall. Again, they're kind of clumsy when it comes to climbing and things like that. So make sure you've got a nice good hold on them. They really do have a blue tongue. With frequent handling and age, they can be very good pets. They can be very docile. They're not really known for biting. They're with the different locales. Northern Blue Tongue Skinks are known to be a lot more placid than other relatives that they might have. So make sure if, for example, you're at a reptile show and you just see skink or blue tongue skink, make sure you're asking, is it a northern blue tongue skink? A lot of times other localities that could be more feisty or more aggressive or just different species altogether, but they say skink, they're going to be a little bit cheaper than a northern. Their prices can really range, but normally northerns are a little bit more expensive because they do make better pets. They're not known to really being aggressive, and they do have some pretty cool colors. All in all, though, I think that they could be a really good starter pet as long as you're taking all the proper precautions when it comes to not letting them fall, giving them calcium dust, a wide range of food so that's nice and has a lot of variety. Make sure that you're not doing any of the bedding that could be toxic to them. A nice easy thing is to get a temperature gun, so that way you know exactly what the cool side or the warm side is. Things like this. It tells you the temperature and the humidity. I think I got 4 of these for $20 or something like that off Amazon. I put these in every single reptile enclosure, the bigger ones that I have, and then I also have temperature guns, so I'm always checking their hot and cool side. So these are really inexpensive, and it doesn't hurt to throw a couple of these in your reptile's enclosure. Over time, they'll knock them over, they'll ruin them by, stepping on them or knocking them into the water dish, stuff like that. But they're really inexpensive, so I would always recommend having these, because if, for example, it's summer versus winter, the temperature can drastically change inside that enclosure. So by putting these in there, you know exactly what the temperature is, so it's a lot safer for your animals. But that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It really helps out, and we do videos every Wednesday. So we'll see you next Wednesday.